Welcome to the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Supplemental Grant Information Overview webinar. At the heart of Arizona's CLSD project is to support making high-quality literacy instruction available to all students, ensuring equal access and treatment to disadvantaged children, and improving student outcomes. This grant proposes to improve child literacy skills and instructional capacity on the science of reading. It also aims to strengthen collaboration, improve efficiency, and drive innovation to accelerate language and literacy outcomes. CLSC is founded on three main project goals. Goal 1 is to build the knowledge, skills, and capacity of early learning programs and school leadership to serve struggling readers more effectively in schools and systems with the highest percentage of disadvantaged students in the state to accelerate their literacy outcomes. Goal 2 is to increase the number of disadvantaged students who have access to high-quality instructional staff trained in the science of reading. Goal 3 is to increase the state's capacity and infrastructure to implement high-quality, evidence-based practices and strategies to support struggling readers. CLSD subgrantees are currently in year 3 of 5 of the CLSD grant and have made significant strides in investments as a result of the wraparound supports CLSD provides. Please refer to your slide to see some of the areas demonstrated from our current grantees and initiatives. As an extension of the CLSD grant, the supplemental grant activities will enhance and expand the state's efforts to respond to gaps and needs specific to the areas of improvement that will increase access to effective literacy instruction. The Arizona CLSD project has been a lift-off and threading the needle of best practices for language and literacy across the birth to 12th grade continuum. Arizona was awarded a 5-year, $20 million federal comprehensive literacy state development grant, what we refer to as CLSD, in 2020 specifically focused on the science of reading. This grant impacts 23 subgrantees who serve a total of 40 sites across 12 of the 15 Arizona counties. Per federal requirements, 15% of the funds are dedicated to birth to 5 years of age, and 40% are dedicated to the elementary and secondary spaces. In 2023, Arizona was awarded the CLSD-Supplemental Grant. The CLSD-Supplemental Grant is a 2-year grant with a total of over $2 million in funding that will enhance and expand the current goals and activities of the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant. Per federal guidelines, just as the original CLSD grant, funding is broken down into 3 tiers. 15% of the grant funds must be used for children through age 5, 40% for K through 5th grade, and 40% 6th through 12th grades. Potential grant applicants have the option to apply for funding in one or all 3 of the grant activities listed. Applicants may apply to purchase and implement high-quality evidence for ESSA Tier 1, Tier 2, strong to moderate literacy-based curriculum. This is inclusive of materials, training, and coaching from the vendors selected. The goal is not only to provide funding for literacy-based curriculum, but to ensure proper training and supports for implementation and fidelity. The second application funding activity is for dyslexia designee training and K-5 literacy endorsement professional development. Recently, legislation has led to a literacy requirement endorsement for K-5 teachers who provide literacy instruction, and all schools to ensure that at least one K-through teacher has received training related to dyslexia. The CLSD supplemental grant will allow the expansion for educational professionals who desire to obtain a training to become a dyslexia trainee or to obtain their K-5 literacy endorsement. Applicants are required to have a current certification in one of the below areas that I will list to qualify specifically for the K-5 literacy endorsement. However, applicants are not required to have a certification to obtain the dyslexia designee training. These areas include alternative teaching, international teaching, classroom based standard teaching, standard professional certificate in early childhood education, elementary education, middle grades education, or special education certificate, early childhood special education, birth through grade 3, mild moderate disabilities K through 12, mild severe disabilities K 12, hearing impaired special education, birth through grade 12, and visually impaired special education, birth through grade 12. In addition, the third activity is high impact intervention funding. These interventions can include high impact tutoring and out of school literacy time. In addition, supplemental programs that may be purchased underneath this category and materials will need to meet the top two ESSA evidence as well. The CLSC supplemental application is grounded on the Evidence for ESSA evidence-based tier levels. At this time, please reference the What Works Clearinghouse quick overview video about identifying evidence for ESSA ratings and then continue the rest of the presentation.
The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, is a 2015 federal law which defines the kinds of research needed by states and districts to demonstrate that an activity, strategy, or intervention funded under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act is evidence-based. To do so, ESSA uses tiers of evidence to determine which research provides the strongest argument for implementation. States and districts may need to make determinations about the strength of evidence supporting proposed interventions. The What Works Clearinghouse, or WWC, is equipped to provide state and local administrators, teachers, and researchers with the tools necessary to find research that meets the definitions of strong or moderate evidence used in federal discretionary grant programs funded under ESSA. The WWC does so by offering tools that can quickly identify research that meets the various levels of evidence specified by the federal guidelines. Most importantly, the ESSA tiers found on the WWC website use the WWC's review and rating process as a determination for the tiers of evidence. So you can be sure that using the WWC's tools provide the most accurate and up-to-date information to fit your research needs. To provide the tiers of evidence, the WWC's new tools illustrate which studies align with ESSA's most rigorous tiers of evidence, Tiers 1 and 2. ESSA Tier 1 indicates that a finding shows strong evidence of effectiveness, while ESSA Tier 2 indicates that a finding shows moderate evidence of effectiveness. These icons appear throughout the WWC's review of individual studies database, anytime a study has findings that received these ratings. To identify studies with findings that qualify to meet ESSA Evidence Tiers 1 and 2, researchers and practitioners have several options on the WWC website. The Review of Individual Studies page, which can be found at the URL highlighted here, is one place to find these studies. To find studies with at least one finding that meets ESSA Tiers 1 or 2, users should select Meets WWC Standards with or without reservations from the All Ratings dropdown, and check the box next to the Select Studies with at least one statistically positive finding. Users can also narrow the search by filtering the design or topic, or by searching keywords for studies reviewed by WWC. Once the search is filtered, clicking on the study links will bring users to each study's review page. In this example, the study has at least one finding that meets ESSA Tier 1 criteria. In this example, the finding meets the ESSA Tier 1 criteria for the following reasons. It's a statistically significant positive finding from a study that meets WWC standards without reservations. There are no significant negative findings for the same outcome from other studies that meet WWC standards. It reported more than 350 participants in the analytics sample, and more than one school was used for the research. Please note that practitioners who wish to use this example as Tier 1 evidence must ensure that the study's sample and setting both match the practitioner's sample and setting. In this example, the study has at least one finding that meets ESSA Tier 2 criteria. The finding meets the ESSA Tier 2 criteria for the following reasons. While the study was designed as a randomized controlled trial, the sample was compromised by the possibility that students entered the sample after it had been randomized. As a result, the study meets WWC standards with reservations. Additionally, there are no significant negative findings for the same outcome from other studies that meet WWC standards. To use this example as Tier 2 evidence, educators must make sure that the sample and settings match their student population. they should ask themselves, is the context that this study was researched in similar to the one in which we work? The ESSA evidence definitions can help identify interventions that have been shown to improve student outcomes. To make it easier for education practitioners and researchers to find evidence, the WWC offers these tools so that users have the opportunity to quickly find studies that meet their needs. This is all in the mission of the WWC, to help users answer the question, what works in education? With the WWC's alignment to ESSA-related resources, researchers and practitioners have access to the information they need to make evidence-based decisions. For more information on the WWC, please visit whatworks.ed.gov.
As shared in the What Works Clearinghouse video resource, the ESSA tiers of evidence provide applicants with a framework for determining which programs, practices, strategies, and interventions work in which contexts and for which students. The determining tiers of evidence 5 factors include study design, research of the study, findings from related studies, sample size and setting, and match. The applicants will need to ensure to provide the appropriate evidence that aligns with the top 2 tiers of strong to moderate evidence, if not selecting an option from the CLSD vetted list provided on the CLSD supplemental site. To support applicants, the CLSD guidance document contains examples of evidence-based strategies and specific practices that applicants can employ to accelerate student learning. Applicants can use this guide to align with specific grant funding activities that they choose to apply to. These examples are designed so that eligible applicants have a clear picture of approved applicable funding uses, which they can include in their grant application. The inclusion of these proven practices will help expedite grant approval for eligible applicants. Each applicant should refer to the CLSD guidance document in detail as a foundation to the supplemental grant application. This grant application operates on a federal calendar year and not a state calendar year. If your program does not currently have a ADE entity ID number or CTDS number, SAM.gov UEI number, have ever received funds from ADE, or does not have a role in ADE Connect, please access the How to Access the CLSC Supplemental Grant resource under the Applications and Resource tab. You do not want to delay due to SAM.gov UEI registration process can take up to 10 business days to complete. October 1st, 2023 is when the grant will initially begin, and it will close year 1, September 30th, 2024. Each year, a funding application will be required in order to have your budget costs approved. The first year of the grant is competitive. Year 1 is continuation, meaning that as an applicant who has been awarded, you will not need to reapply for the second year of the grant. Year 1 funds must be obligated by September 30th and spent by December 30th. Obligated funds must be liquidated within those 90 days of the project end date, which is September 30th. However, unexpended funds from year 1 are allowed to be carried over into year 2. The Grants Management Resource Library is available to you at your fingertips and is linked on the CLSC Supplemental website as a resource. There you can find visuals and details on how to navigate the Grants Management System, what we refer to as GME, how to complete your completion reports, submit reimbursement requests, and much more. You can access this from the library, again, from the ADE CLSD Supplemental website. As applicants begin your budget, some common object and function codes also may apply. Here are some examples of allowable expenses specifically for salaries. CLSC use of funds can be found in detailed on pages 21 through 26 of the CLSC guidance document on the CLSC supplemental website. Here you will see that salaries are allowable for reading specialists, lead teachers, teacher assistants, paraprofessionals, project directors, coaches, mentors, tutors, substitutes, who are directly from the district program who are supporting specifically to the CLSC supplemental grant. In 1000 is for direct instruction and 2100 is for support services. These codes must have benefits as illustrated on your screen. In 2100 support services, in the 2000 function codes, funding can be used salaries towards instructional staff trainers grounded in the science of reading, stipends for after school work, such as instructional staff attending professional development, district substitute salaries for teachers and caregivers to attend professional development, teacher stipends for before and after school small group tutoring, etc., stipends to lead parent reading nights as an example. So please be sure to refer to the details of your budgets and how you are aligning your funds when completing your funding application for the CLSD supplemental grant for the appropriate activities. The next screen will provide some additional examples. Another common function code and object code that you may use is for purchasing professional services, such as contracting consultants, also registration for instructional staff to attend professional development, such as dyslexia density training, K-5 literacy endorsement training, curriculum training, things of that nature. So again, just please pay careful attention to how you are aligning your budget to ensure that it is specific to the activities that you are applying to and that it is acceptable under the CLSD supplemental grant for Tier 1 and Tier 2 evidence for ESSA activities. This example that I will provide is for object code and function codes for supplies 6600. Keeping in mind 1000 is for direct instruction and 2100 and on in the 2000 category is for support services. 2300 and on is for support service specific to administration. So in this categorical area for object codes and function codes, this is where you will budget your purchases for evidence-based curriculum inclusive of language and literacy, keeping in mind, again, evidence for ESSA Tier 1 and Tier 2, purchases for high-quality materials, as well as if you want to supply books for students in their home or parents, engaging materials for that homeschool connection, and etc. As an additional resource to aid in your budget planning for the CLSC supplemental grant application, the Uniform System of Financial Records is a coding system for accounting purposes when using federal funds. Please refer to the link on the screen in order to access the PDF in order to see more information about the USFR chart of accounts. The entire CLSD team thanks each of you for joining and listening to this presentation. All of the information presented can be found on the CLSC supplemental page. As you see on your screen, virtual office hours are available Wednesdays and Fridays from 2 to 4 p.m. For questions, you can email clsgrant@azed.gov. We highly recommend that you first take the time to read through the CLSD grant narrative, the guidance document, and resources provided within the site before reaching out, as questions and details you may have already been provided, and also to avoid any potential delay in your application process. Thank you so much for attending this webinar again. Have a great day.